Something super freaky happened to the music there. I don't know what. It went into double. It went into double somehow. Oh no.
All right, Tom, are we live?
Yeah, Paula, will you take it from here? Because
You got
I'm
it.
getting some bounce. I'm going to rejoin.
All right, you guys, this is a heck of a day. We got a lot to get through. If you are one of Harry and Meghan's stans or a Sussex squad member, you would think that this Australia tour is the best thing ever. That it is so amazing and that everyone loves them. And wow, they're doing such great things. However, if you are, a critical thinker and actually look around and kind of turn the camera around and actually analyze what they're doing, it is bonkers. So they arrived, it's nuts. They arrive in Australia and they are taken off the plane. They did fly commercial, in business, but only because first wasn't available on that flight. So basically, first business. And then they were greeted by a convoy at the airport. It's insane because in Australia, that is actually quite hard to do, to get someone to allow you to have a convoy. Then with the convoy, there were obviously police presence. So, that means tax dollars. And then they went straight to the hospital. Tom, what do you have to say about that hospital? Because I've got a lot, but I'd like to hear your thoughts first.
Well, the main thing I have to say is it's really great that my co-host on this podcast is such a complete pro as Paula, who can pick the baton up like that so expertly. So thank you, Paula. What I have to say is it is incredibly hard to do a hospital visit and make it this bad. It is like it's almost impossible to do a hospital visit and come out of it with the kids looking like they don't want to talk to you. They don't know who you are. Like, do you know what it really reminded me of? Do you remember that photo where Kate and William were in the Caribbean? I think they were in Jamaica, and the kids were on the other side of the fence with the hands through the chain link. It really had that vibe to me of like, these people have been lined up for your gratification. And the whole thing was so cringy and awful. And like, I'm just like, what are they doing there? They have no connection with this hospital. They show up there for like 45 minutes or an hour and a half. I mean, I checked with their representatives. I was like, were you happy with the way that they were presented, that everybody was lined up? And they were like, well, we didn't really have any control over it. It was just great. The pictures speak for themselves. It was lovely. And this totally goes back to my point of like, it's all so badly organized. This is not how you don't leave it to the hospital of how they're going to do it. You don't leave it like, I mean, in a way, like I understand, like if you do a hospital visit, you show up, you go in, you look at some research that they're doing, and then you go and visit one or two patients in a really calm way who are really into it and who know who you are. Like, this is like, it's the world's worst hospital visit ever.
Well, also, Tom, what was crazy, so just for everyone out there, they walked into the hospital and the hospital had wheeled out machines that they were really proud of, alongside cancer-stricken children and teens with eating disorders. So then it was nuts. So they take these kids out of bed to wheel them out. I mean, they turned a hospital into an arena, a conference hall, basically. Then later, Harry and Meghan hung out with kids who had eating disorders and did things like smelled plants and flowers with them, because that's what you do apparently with kids. Now I get it. They're probably like, take time to be present. That's very Montecito speak. Be present. Smell the flowers, smell the plants. Everything's living. Don't you want to eat them? Girl, please. Not to mention the photos of these kids. First of all, these kids didn't sign up for that. This is bonkers. This is really turning, it's the griefsters at work. They are turning this into a photo op. They're turning someone else's pain into their PR.
Absolutely. I think the photo op. It look, loads of politicians, loads of royals, anybody seeking a vote goes to a hospital. It makes them look cuddly, like it's a well-known trope, right? It's not like they're the first people to do this, but it was the way. Again, it comes back to this thing of the shambolic, chaotic organization of how it was done. Just it's so bad. But do you know, we've got so much to talk about this evening, Paula. I mean, we could talk about this for a whole show, but I'm just going to run through some of the other things that we're going to talk about, just because we've literally only got like 25 minutes. We've got the hospital. We've got this whole quasi-royal thing of them doing all this royal stuff, like the military stuff, you know, really very much posing as royals. We've got this whole question of what kind of level of establishment support has been given to this tour. This whole issue of whether they're trying to undo Brexit. This whole issue of this being a dry run for a return to the UK, which is something that I've reported on. We've got the whole thing of the Meghan weekend not being sold out. We've now got this new thing where Meghan is literally selling the clothes off her back on this new app, One Off, which kind of explains why the Shop My experiment was perhaps so short-lived. So, I mean, look, hey, dealer's choice. Where do you want to start, Paula?
I want to start with the selling her clothes, because first of all, she showed up to sick kids and then did a nice outfit change, wearing $50,000 worth of things, went to a homeless women's shelter. And all of those outfits, her team made sure that you could buy them. Going to visit a kid with cancer you don't know? Don't worry. This is the Dior dress you should wear. Going to visit some homeless women?
Sorry, can I break a rule? Can I interrupt you? That is so awful. You're saying that the clothes that she wore to the hospital were then on One Off. That is appalling.
Wait. Then, same with the clothes that were at the homeless women's shelter. The Daily Mail did a whole damn thing on it. And you're just looking at it going, this is insane. No wonder she brought so many clothing changes, because remember, she is always trying to capitalize on this. She tried the Shop My. It didn't quite work out because, again, it's very hard to sell. You know, it's actually, I take it back. It's easy to sell out a Loro Piana sweater if there's only 5 made and it's $5,000, you know, but it's just, everything is so tacky and tasteless. I was going to go tasteless, which it is. And she also made sure to tell everyone that she has invested in AI One Off, because this is going to be her next big payday. It's kind of taking a look at what Ben Affleck did. He just sold his AI company to Netflix for $600 million. So this is their next big try. Okay. However, I'm wondering why you would want to use One Off when Phoebe Gates, Bill Gates's daughter, already has an established AI shopping thing that is quite good.
Paula, I'm just sitting here absolutely stunned that anybody in their right mind, in their position, with all the focus that they're on, all the vulnerability that they have in their public exposure, all their claims that they want to be doing, you know, public good. I am stunned that they could use that appearance as a shop window to sell clothes. It is absolutely shocking. And I think it will be horrifying to people when they put those 2 and 2 together. I've got to admit, I haven't looked at that. So I think it's exactly why Queen Elizabeth said there is, and this, I wrote this down while you were talking. This is exactly why Queen Elizabeth said there can be no half in and no half out as a royal. It just doesn't work. If you're turning up to a hospital and you are there allegedly all about compassion and to improve the kids' day and to bring a smile to their faces, you cannot in the same breath be walking out of the hospital and literally setting up your virtual shop in the hospital car park. It's just, they just must be completely desperate for money.
Well, the other thing is, the Australian media is hilariously taking the piss out of them. They're saying stuff like, you're using us as an ATM. This is blatant. We are angry about this. What are you doing here? This is a sham royal tour because, again, they are acting as if this is a royal tour. They're doing all the things that they would do if they were royal. The big difference is royals don't sell everything while they're doing it. They also, yes, Kate and William have taken part in national shows. However, they haven't gotten paid for it. Meghan then is announced as a Top Chef judge on one of Top Chef Australia's episodes coming up. And everyone's laughing because they're all going, she can't cook. She put spaghetti in a pan and mixed all this weird ingredients. It's horrible. She actually said she doesn't really enjoy, she hates baking. She doesn't really cook, all this stuff. And her version of cooking is taking pre-cooked pretzels out of a shop bag and putting it into a different bag. So, and also because of the desperation, because of all the press, it's insane. However, they do have people like the Telegraph that's following them around, writing these wonderful things. I'm sure they've got a Harper's Bazaar person with them, writing wonderful things. They're not doing any walkabouts like a real royal because there would be protests, and people have said that they would line up to boo them because they don't like being used, kind of like everybody in that hospital was. But the other thing is, a lot of these places, the women's shelter, the hospital, they need money, Tom. And you know what? They're not getting it from Harry and Meghan. It's great to bring attention, but when people actually need money, I'm sure people in Sydney already know, or Melbourne already know about that hospital and the women's shelter.
What I find so extraordinary about this whole tour is that we're told that originally it was just going to be, they just were going to go to Australia and do some business, right? And they were going to go home. And then they decided to add on these charitable things, and these philanthropic initiatives. It seems to me just so obvious that what they are trying to do is they are trying to undo Megxit. They're trying to undo the Sandringham Summit. And it appears to me, actually, Paula, that they are succeeding because they may not be very popular, as you say, like people may not like it, but they don't care and they are doing it. And trust me, they are going to come to the UK and they're going to do exactly the same thing. When they come over in July for Invictus, they're going to do some Invictus stuff. And then they're going to do some charitable stuff that kind of positions them as royal adjacent. And then they're going to try and make some commercial deals to sell their crappy fruit spread.
Right. But you'll notice Harry took another dig at his father during his speech on mental health at the Interedge Summit. He then spent, I don't know, a good 15, 20, 30 minutes moaning about how his trauma of how he was raised. Now, of course, he would never say his mother did anything, but so clearly this was all pointed over at Charles. Once again, another flip the bird to daddy. And you're right, they do have balls of steel, and I mean balls with a Z. So they don't care. All they want is what they want. They're going to ride roughshod over anyone to get it. And it still hasn't been announced if Meghan is going because, again, Harry wants that invitation to Sandringham, emotional blackmail. Hey, daddy, if you invite us, you might see the kids again. We haven't made up our minds. But we need to know who's going to be there, not that nasty brother William. However, if they go to Sandringham, they will get their beloved police protection. Now, they might also get it for Invictus in Birmingham because of the heavy Muslim population and Harry's bragging about killing 25 Taliban in his book Spare. However, I think enough. He goes to this mental health place, that's workplace, bullying, whatever. He's, of course, accused of bullying. And then he goes off once again on daddy.
Yeah, and in fact, he hasn't even actually got to the workplace bullying yet. I think this might have been from November that this thing where he said today about his genetic pain and oh God, like, my life's so awful. And sorry, the genetic pain, I think was said before, wasn't it? But it's very much that theme, and what really upsets me about this as a parent and a child myself, like my parents were far from perfect, and I'm a far from perfect father. But what really annoys me about it is I'm not pointing any fingers, but my dad was terrible. Like, it's like, just because you say you're not pointing any fingers doesn't mean you're not pointing any fingers. Do you know what I mean? It's like so clearly that it's just like, grow up, mate. You're 38 or 39, you're 40, you've had every opportunity in the world. You grew up in a palace, right? You had everything at your feet. You had the world at your feet. And guess what? It wasn't enough and you didn't like it. And, yeah, I'm sorry. I know you had a tough time as a kid. I know you were made to walk behind your mother's coffin. That wasn't right. We all feel for you. But going on and on about like, it's my father's fault. I was curled up in a ball in the kitchen in the fetal position. It's just like, it's just to me, it's just like a brand as well in absolute chaos. And it's like, they don't know who they are, what they're trying to be, what they're trying to sell. Like, what are they? What are these people meant to represent at this point?
Oh, I can tell you, they are griefsters, the grief version of grifters. And at this point, I mean, Harry is such a you-know-what at this point. If he got constipation, he would blame his father. My generational trauma, it's affecting me on the toilet now. It's like, come on, man, eat some fiber. Enough. But, so then we've got that. Then he goes to Canberra and, of course, does the whole like laying the flowers at the soldier, very reminiscent, frankly, of Meghan at Uvalde for me. Again, back with the griefsters. It's just, and the other thing is, we've talked about this, Tom. What angers me the most is that they don't do this freaking every day at home. They do this about 10 days out of the year for the cameras. And they claim it so that people will pay attention to these causes. But no offense, this ain't like AIDS in the 90s with Diana. This is, yes, we get it. Children have cancer. This is horrible. And there are major money machines raising money for children with cancer. People are homeless. This is horrible. Again, there are major machines behind this. There are veterans. There are major government programs for this. And now, of course, he's saying there's going to be an Invictus program started next year, I believe, in Australia, where it just won't be the games. It'll be like guys meeting up. Okay, cool. But also, every time there's an Invictus game, which will come to Australia in 2031, he gets a ton of money. Millions is being given for the Invictus games by the British government for Birmingham.
Lots of you will be aware that Dan Wootton was reporting today, and Dan obviously was the Sun editor who broke Mexit. He's broken a lot of stories about this couple. He reported today that before they went into the hospital, Meghan was overheard saying, "Let's make this quick." I did put this to Harry and Meghan's team. They obviously have denied it. But I think the problem now that Harry and Meghan's team have is that they have denied so many things that have then turned out to be untrue, that people are, it's a very fine balance. As a journalist, we and Paula, I'm sure, will agree with me. Like, we do have to go to people and ask them for their comment when, allegations are made about them. And it's very, very difficult when you start to enter a relationship where you don't entirely trust them. And unfortunately, we've had another example of this week with their team saying that the Best Life conference was sold out and that we were all making it up, saying that it wasn't, and that they were aggressively still selling it. Well, they were all slightly undone when Gemma was obviously so desperate that she put a thing on Instagram saying we've got 7 places left. I mean, if you cannot sell 300 tickets, I mean, It's just the whole thing is a massive mess at this point, I think.
Well, your reaction when I sent you that Instagram post was classic. I mean, I think your head exploded. You're like, what? The fact that Meghan and Harry's people say one thing, and then someone else is like, hey guys, we're not sold out yet. Come on down. Which means that everything you and I have been talking about, guess what, was completely true. And I knew it was true anyway, because people were sending me the receipts. They were sending me screenshots. But it's just, they don't look like the most honest, upstanding people. They look like they live in Sussex land, which is a bit of a fairy place that, frankly, I wouldn't mind living in a fairy place where everything is fabulous. Turn that frown upside down. But, but it's just not truthful. And, should they end up, they're going to go to Sydney, I think. Well, it's Thursday there. They should be arriving soon, and then on Friday. And there'll be lots of other things going on. Now, here's the other thing, Tom. Even if you didn't pay for the Besties weekend, I've had friends who are calling the hotel and asking to book rooms for that weekend, and the hotel is saying, yes, we have space. So it's fascinating, isn't it? On Coogee, also known as Poogie Beach.
I think what's going to be the big tell in this is clearly a kind of trial run for what's going to happen in the UK. They obviously desperately want to come back to the UK because we may not love them in the UK. I would certainly argue that in the UK, and perhaps even in Australia, it was quite interesting after that men's health thing he was doing or whatever. Then he went out and was playing Aussie rules with the lads and stuff. And it was quite, you could see how there is still, I think, just about a place in our hearts for Harry, because I think there is also a narrative that is very compelling that a lot of us will be familiar, will have had a friend who's married somebody strange that we don't like and has changed, and then subsequently they change back, and we all want to put our arm around that person and embrace them. And I sort of get the impression that not everyone, like there's plenty of people in the UK who think what Harry has done is unforgivable and never want to see the sight of him again. But I feel that ultimately for Harry, there could be a way back to life in the UK. I do not understand why Meghan wants to try and market herself in places like Australia and the UK where the king is head of state. And she is just hated and blamed for inflicting enormous damage on the United Kingdom.
I know why, Tom. I know. She wants it because she needs to maintain royal connections, because without actually being seen as royal or part of the royal family anymore, her stock is in the toilet, especially in Hollywood. And you and I both know Hollywood is the land of the ovines. It's the march of the sheep. You say something loudly enough, strongly enough, they'll believe it, which is why she does this. However, they're also extremely facile. So if they see that the actual royals, the king, Prince William, Princess Catherine, don't want to have anything to do with them, well, then they're just some people who live in Montecito. It's like Baroness Sherry de Borchgrave, a girl from Jersey who married Count de Borchgrave. They ended up divorcing, but she kept the title, and insisted everyone call her Baroness Sherry for the rest of her life. She's a lovely person. But she needs, for her brand and to make money, to be royal adjacent.
Yeah, well, that's absolutely true. Do you know what? It's been so great being here today. As I said, I'm really sorry it's so quick. I could talk all day. I've got some personal party to attend tonight, so I am going to have to go. But I did want to say before I go, thank you so much to Paula for coming on the Royalist podcast yesterday, which I do with the Daily Beast. And I'm really excited to say that next week, Paula, I have just booked a guest I'm so excited about, which is Katie Nicholl, the Vanity Fair royal correspondent, who's going to tell us all about her chats with Angela Kelly, who is being brutally cut out of the Queen's 100th anniversary birthday celebrations. So
you're kidding me.
That's going to be, so that's going to be on Tuesday week. We're going to have Katie spilling the beans, which is going to be really exciting. So really looking forward to that.
I will be there with bated breath, but I also want to let everyone else know that Tom and I on Friday are going to be doing a roundup so far of what happened. So if today wasn't enough, don't worry. We're doing one on my channel on Friday. You'll love it. Thanks, everyone.
This is just a teaser. Ben, thank you so much for a brilliant production. Bye.
Love you, Ben.